A couple of weeks ago I heard some very sad news. An old school friend of mine from here in Wetherby had passed away. Same age as me, 65 years of age. So I thought I'd come up here today to Wetherby Racecourse to remember him and shoot a little bit of footage around the racecourse. Now you might think, what's the relevance? Well, his name was Graham Bradley and he went on to be one of the top horse racing jump jockeys in the UK, and he did win the most famous race that is at this racecourse. It's called the Charlie Hall Memorial, so that's why I'm here at Wetherby Races. Graham's passing hit me like a kick to the stomach. He's the second one in a few years. Another school friend passed away age 63 a few years ago, but Graham's passing was particularly hard. And the reason being is that we do have a shared story. I was born in Wetherby. My dad was a local policeman and he brought me as a newborn baby back to a house in 2nd Avenue, Wetherby. And across the street in 2nd Avenue lived the Bradley family, Sheila and Norman and their kids, one of which was Graham. An early story that my father always told was that he bought me a rocking horse, and as a small child I never played on it. But guess who did? Graham. My dad always said that's where he first learned how to ride a horse. And now that could be true. He certainly went on to bigger and better things than my rocking horse in 2nd Avenue. My dad also told me that Graham and I spent a lot of time playing together as small children. I don't really remember. We actually left Wetherby when I was only 4 years of age, and I didn't catch up with Graham again for another 7 years. My dad's job took him off to different parts of Yorkshire. We went off to Halifax where he was a local policeman. But when I was 11 I was back in Wetherby and I was back at the local high school, and that's where I came across Graham again. So Wetherby High School was where I got to know Graham again. There were times when we used to pass ourselves off as cousins because he used to refer to my dad as Uncle Tim. But once we left school, I went at 18, but Graham went a couple of years earlier at 16 to be an apprentice jockey. I lost touch with him, apart from the odd occasion when I used to come to the races and he was riding, and I used to wave at him and he used to say, "Hi Nick," but other than that we had lost touch. He gave my dad a copy of his book that he wrote in, I think it was around about 2000. It was called The Wayward Lad. It was his autobiography, because Graham went on to have a very checkered history in the horse racing game, which I won't get into in this video, but just Google it. The point I wanted to get into with this video, just giving you a little bit of background on Graham, was how fragile life can be. I had heard that Graham was diagnosed with dementia when he was 60. What an awful thing to happen. And that eventually took its toll, and as I understand it, he passed away through the complications of dementia. The thing is, none of us know when we're going to die, but 65 feels like a young age these days. I'm hoping that I'm going to be living as long as my Uncle Archie. He's 96. I would hardly say he's going strong at 96, but he's not. But certainly until a couple of years ago, 94, he was very independent, getting around. I mean, he drove a car until he was 90. That'll do me. I think that's a great innings. If you can drive a car, if you can be independent and do the things you want to do when you're 90 years of age, well, I think that's a good life and that's a good trade. But Graham Bradley sadly can't do that. 65, the same age as I am now. That is a very sobering thought. When you hear about somebody like Graham, who was a larger than life character, a real extrovert personality and incredibly popular, when you hear about somebody like him passing away at just 65 years of age, I think it gives you a kick up the arse. It certainly has with me, although these days I have to be honest, I'm not sure I really need one, because I'm very conscious of the days passing, the hours passing, the years passing, ticking away towards the inevitable, the date that none of us know, but which will happen. But when I read about Graham, I was sad. And I won't lie, I was also a little bit scared, because I was thinking to myself, well, that's Graham, that's his time. When's it my time? And I don't think that's even something that I gave a second thought to, even 10 years ago. Definitely not 20 years ago. When I was 45 and I'd just left my business that I'd sold a year earlier, I didn't really contemplate death at all. And I won't lie, I think I wasted a lot of time. I certainly wasted a lot of years. It's only since I turned 60 that I can honestly say that I've got my finger out and I've started trying to do something and live with a consciousness that I haven't got as many years left as perhaps I once did have. But when I was 45, the thought never even crossed my mind. When you're 45, you think that life is going to last forever and you live your life accordingly. But when you're 65, it becomes pretty obvious that it's not. At this age, you start seeing people dying. First it's your parents, then it's your friends. And it does start to make you think about your own mortality and whether or not you really are living your best life and making the most of every minute of every day that you've still got left.
And I'd find you if I could.
When I heard Graham had died, I found myself thinking about all the plans we make, the things we assume we'll get round to one day, places we'll visit, the people we'll call, the projects we'll finally start. His family included one sentence in their statement that stayed with me: live for today, tomorrow is promised to no one. At 65, I don't find that statement depressing. In fact, I find it clarifying and motivating. It reminds me not to put life on hold and to prioritise spending time with the people who really matter. It also reminds me to stop waiting for the perfect time. Just get out there and go for that walk along the coast, or book that trip to Japan. Spend time baking bread, making a video, do whatever you enjoy doing. Just stop wasting too much of your precious time. At 65, the clock is ticking down fast. You just don't know how many ordinary Tuesdays you've got left. So make the most of them whilst you can. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Yesterday